After my first love passed away, it was David who helped me move on with 8 years of secret love and 2 years of companionship. But when we finally became a couple, he became unsatisfied. He had a wild night with the woman who had a crush on him, and they had a child together. He forced me to have an abortion. As long as you accept that child, we'll be even. Grace. I just saw a reflection of my past self in her. Do you think I'm just as pathetic and low in your eyes? Chapter 1. David and I once again argued over the child. Early in the morning, I was in the study, organizing documents. David, already dressed, suddenly spoke. When do you have time? What's going on? He said, you need to pick a day soon, so we can get the surgery done. I was focused on the contract and didn't immediately process his words. What surgery? David's gaze shifted down, landing on my belly. My hand froze, clutching the documents. For a moment, we both remained silent. After what felt like an eternity, I turned to look at him. David, are you asking for a divorce? He was stunned for a second and quickly shook his head. Of course not. Why would I want a divorce? Then why are you insisting I get rid of this child? I couldn't understand. I found out I was pregnant about half a month ago, after working on 2 cases back to back. I collapsed in the meeting room. My boss was terrified, thinking I had a heart attack from overwork. But after a checkup, I found out I was pregnant. It was good news. I was thrilled. I thought David would be just as happy as I was. But after hearing the news, he stayed silent. That night, he tossed and turned, and for the next 3 days, he seemed distracted. On the 4th day, he told me, the timing isn't right. We'll have kids later. But this one, let it go. He wanted me to terminate the pregnancy, to get rid of the baby. We had a huge fight and parted on bad terms. I moved out of the house and stayed in a hotel for a week. During that week, I refused to see David and ignored all his calls. Later, he came to find me, defeated. Grace, are you telling me that unless I back down, you'll never look back at me? You can't be so heartless. Heartless? I've never been able to be heartless with David. Naturally, I went home with him. We brushed over the issue of the baby. I thought I'd wait until we weren't so busy, then sit down and have a serious talk with him. But before I could even bring it up, he brought up the past again. Chapter 2. My questioning made David frown with frustration. I already told you, the timing isn't right. Why do you insist on having this child now? We can have children in the future, but not this one. Each word from David felt like a heavy stone pressing down on my heart. I exhaled a long, deep breath. During that week at the hotel, I considered so many possibilities. Maybe your company was in trouble. Maybe there was something wrong with your health. I even took your medical report to get a specialist's opinion. David, I can't understand. We are legally married. We don't have any issues with our relationship. I'm pregnant, and having this baby should be the natural next step, right? The timing isn't right. That reason doesn't convince me. David fell silent again. Just when I thought this conversation would end in nothing, he said, I'll take you to meet someone. Chapter 3. Neither of us spoke during the entire ride. I was a bit angry. I knew David was definitely hiding something from me. He didn't want to tell me, but this secret was related to why he didn't want our child. Now, it seemed he was finally going to reveal that secret to me. No matter the reason, this time I was truly angry. He had hurt me. I wasn't going to forgive him so easily. But at the same time, no matter what, he was my love, and I would stand by him through this. That's really what I thought. I was prepared to weather the storm together with him. But later, I would realize just how laughable that was. The car drove through most of the city and eventually came to a stop. I followed David's gesture and looked in the direction he pointed. It was a flower shop. The owner of the flower shop, wearing a loose dress, smiled gently as she saw her customers out. Once the customers were gone, she rubbed her back tiredly. She was pregnant, and her belly was quite large, as if she was about to give birth soon. Do you recognize her? I hesitated and shook my head. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her immediately. Think again. I frowned and looked at David. Who is she, and what does she have to do with us? David looked off into the distance, his expression indifferent. Sandra, our high school classmate. I thought for a while, and finally dredged up a memory. There was a very special girl during our 3 years of high school, short hair, bold, and played the pipa. She would always perform at the school's annual arts festival. Her image had become blurry in my mind, but the way she played the pipa with a battle-ready flair was still vivid in my memory. I also remembered she had done something outrageous. She confessed to David publicly on the school's broadcasting station. I turned sharply to look at David. She liked you. David didn't deny it. I thought it was just a youthful crush, but when I ran into her again a year ago, she told me she still liked me. My breath caught for 2 seconds, and the hand resting on my knee slowly clenched. What are you trying to say? David met my gaze. 13 years. I liked you for 13 years, and she liked me for 13 years. Do you know? I saw my own reflection in her, pathetic and lowly. So what? David gave a sarcastic smile. Sometimes I can't help but wonder, do you really love me? Do you love me more? Or do you love? David didn't finish the name, but we both knew who he was referring to, Oscar, my first love, who died from a heart attack. David spent 8 years secretly loving me and then 2 years by my side, helping me lower my guard. I thought he understood me, but now, after being married for 3 years, he was still hung up on this issue. David, what are you really trying to say? The sadness on his face faded, leaving him emotionless as he looked at me. I don't care anymore, even if you never let him go, even if I always come second to him. Grace, as long as you accept the child Sandra is carrying, we can be even and start over. What did you say? For a moment, I thought I had misheard. The child Sandra is carrying is yours? David, are you telling me you cheated on me? I didn't. David rubbed his temples in exhaustion. I just gave her a child. My face turned completely cold. I got out of the car and slammed the door, ready to leave. Grace! David chased after me, tightly grabbing my hand. I know you can't accept this right away. Take your time to think about it. I just want us to be on more equal footing, not me constantly giving in. My muscles tensed. My teeth clenched as I spoke slowly, each word deliberate. Let go of me. David, you disgust me. David's grip suddenly loosened. What did you say? I said, you disgust me. He laughed abruptly. Disgusting? You think I'm disgusting? So, you think I'm just like all those people, a simp who's been groveling at your feet, don't you? I spent 10 years pining after you, and you finally took pity on me and married me. But even now, your heart hasn't let go of him, you know? In other people's eyes, I'm a joke. Chapter 4. David's emotions grew increasingly intense, but my heart grew colder and colder. When Oscar passed away, David was the one by my side. He told me he had secretly loved me for 8 years, from the moment I entered high school until now. For 8 years. You're the only person I've ever loved. I rejected him, not wanting to use him to heal my grief. He said it didn't matter, even if you don't love me. Just let me stay by your side. Otherwise, I won't feel at ease. Later, I accepted him. He was so excited. He nearly cried. Even if you don't love me as much now, it's okay. We have a lifetime together. I believe we'll always be together. Everything had gone just as he had wished. But at some point, his resentment and dissatisfaction began to grow. The affection and love we once had blurred into something unrecognizable. It left me utterly chilled. Chapter 5. David, is that you? You came to see me? Sandra's voice suddenly broke the silence. She waddled across the road, awkwardly jogging towards us. David frowned slightly and let go of me. He stepped forward to support Sandra. Why are you in such a rush? Slow down. Sandra stuck out her tongue playfully, clinging to David's arm with a joyful expression. I just wanted to see you quickly. Why didn't you call me before coming? If I hadn't spotted you. Sandra! I brought Grace to meet you. Sandra's smile froze. She hurriedly let go of David's arm, flustered as she looked at me. Grace. Long time no see. The scene in front of me was absurd. I didn't want to stay even for a second longer. but Sandra rushed forward, trying to grab me. I quickly took a step back. Don't touch me. If you fall or hurt yourself, whose fault will it be? David came over and stood between us. He spoke to me calmly. I know you're not like this. I snorted and nodded. I thought you always knew that. David was taken aback. Just as he was about to say something, Sandra interrupted him, her face pale. She gave me a deep bow. Grace, this is all my fault. I only wanted to keep this child. I never meant to disturb you too, but my health is failing, and I might not live to see this child grow up. But don't worry, once I give birth, I'll leave. I won't interfere with your lives. David looked at me too. Take your time and think it over. There's no rush to answer. No need. I stared back at him. I can give you an answer right now. David, I'll get rid of this baby. And then, we're getting a divorce. Chapter 6. Zoe probably didn't expect that the first big thing she'd do after her divorce was to accompany me to have an abortion. I had moved out of the house. At first, David didn't agree. When I brought up divorce, he flew into a rage. He almost destroyed half of the house. Grace, how can you say that word so easily? After all these years, what am I to you? You don't understand. Of course you don't. All these years, I've been the one following behind you. Have you ever looked back at me? She waited for me for 13 years, just wanting a bit of hope. I couldn't turn her down. When I look at her, I see myself. You think I really want that child? Grace, I just want you to prove to me that you love me. I stared at David for a long time, and the more I looked, the more unfamiliar he became. The more I looked, the more repulsive he appeared. No need to prove anything. Just assume I never loved you. I sarcastically said to Zoe. When you divorced Justin, I thought Justin was a total jerk. But now I realize, at least he was more straightforward than David. When he made a mistake, he owned up to it, didn't make excuses, and swiftly got the divorce done. But David? These past few days since leaving, I've been thinking over his words. I even fell into his way of thinking, feeling like maybe he wasn't entirely wrong. He did a lot for me over the years. His kindness to me was clear for all to see. Even his mother couldn't help but tease. My son was born for you. If he treated me half as well as he treats you, I'd be secretly delighted. Many people envied me, saying it was no easy feat for David and me to finally get together. So I cherished it. Was I not doing enough? Or did I do something wrong? Why did David harbor so much resentment and dissatisfaction? Zoe held my hand, her face full of disapproval. Wrong is wrong. Right is right. It doesn't matter who it's because of. If he insists on blaming you, that's his problem. I smiled bitterly and lowered my head. In my career so far, I've handled close to 100 divorce cases. I've always been able to calmly advise others. I've always been able to precisely analyze the real reasons behind someone's actions. I've told women not to fall victim to manipulation. I thought I had seen it all, and no matter what happened, I could remain unfazed. But when it came to my own situation, I realized I was just another confused person caught in the middle. When I was wheeled out of the operating room, there were quite a few people outside. Zoe stood with her back to me, blocking both Justin and David. When David saw me, his eyes were flustered, and his smile seemed forced. Grace, I've come to take you home. Zoe shifted slightly, blocking him. Mr. Zhou, are you leaving on your own? Or should I ask someone to escort you? Justin knows I have quite a network. Zoe, don't call me Zoe, she snapped. Birds of a feather really do flock together. In the end, Justin dragged David away. But before leaving, David stared at me with intensity. You don't get to decide about the divorce. I stayed silent, curling up on the hospital bed. My lower abdomen felt empty, even a little cold. A dull, cramping pain radiated through my nerves. It wasn't an unbearable pain, but it made my entire body tremble. I could only huddle deeper into the blanket. I hadn't even had the chance to fully experience the presence of this child, and now I had personally ended it. But it was the best choice. For me, there was no way I could allow the so-called love of motherhood to burden me for the rest of my life with a child who wasn't yet fully formed. For him, Why should he bear the brunt of a failed marriage between me and David? It was the most rational decision, but that didn't mean I wasn't sad. I thought, let me be weak for just one more night. When the sun rises tomorrow morning, I'll go back to being the unbreakable lawyer Jiang. Zoe took me back to her house, insisting on personally taking care of me. She asked what my plans were. Get a divorce, but first, I need to get to the truth. I didn't believe a single word David said. Chapter 7. When it comes to investigations of this kind, I have my own resources. But in reality, I only needed to figure out one thing: whether Sandra conceived through artificial insemination. I asked someone to check her medical records at the hospital. That same afternoon, I got an answer. Sandra conceived naturally. David's lie had collapsed. He had indeed cheated. I had mentally prepared myself for this answer. I thought I wouldn't be affected by it, but when I got out of bed to get a glass of water, my legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the floor mat. What's wrong? Are you okay? I smiled bitterly and shook my head. Whenever I saw those women who had been betrayed by their husbands, I always looked at them coldly as they went crazy, cried, and screamed. I thought I'd handle it better. Zoe hugged me and gently patted my back. If you want to cry, cry. What's the big deal? Why shouldn't someone be upset when they've been hurt? There's no reason to hold back. I don't know if it was Zoe's words, her actions, or the warmth she transmitted to me, but in that moment, the emotions I had been suppressing for days finally burst out. Tears streamed down my face, and my sobs turned into full-on wailing. I cried so hard that I shivered and curled up on the floor, and eventually, I cried myself to sleep. What are you going to do next? Wait. Wait for what? Wait for Sandra's child to be born. This child will determine how I handle the divorce case. I couldn't find any evidence of David's infidelity. For nearly a year, he hadn't given me any reason to suspect anything. Now, finding proof would be even harder, but that's okay. Once I have the paternity test, his betrayal will be undeniable. But as a formality, I still need to ask David one question first. Will you agree to a private divorce settlement? Chapter 8. After staying at Zoe's for a week, this was the first time I agreed to see David. He seemed dazed, as if he hadn't heard my question, and just stared blankly at me. He said, "You're lying to me, aren't you?" Lying about what? You didn't actually have the abortion, did you? You're lying to me. David's words made my heart skip a beat. Is that what you need? For the doctor to perform the surgery right in front of you to believe it? Or should I go back to the operating room again? In your mind, who's really in the wrong here? Him or me? My words brought a pained expression to David's face. So you just got rid of our child so easily? No arguments, no fights, no tears, no drama. And you didn't even tell me. Grace, you're so heartless. If this had been Oscar's child, would you have done the same? His words instantly enraged me, but my professional instincts allowed me to detect his hidden meaning in the next moment. David, are you regretting it now? You forced me to get rid of the child, and now you regret it? David stood up abruptly, his face pale. He said, "I won't divorce you." Fine. It seems the private settlement option is off the table. In that case, there's no point wasting time. I stayed at Zoe's for half a month. After a follow-up at the hospital confirmed everything was fine, I went back to work. I had planned to move out, but she wouldn't let me, saying it's good to have company. Let's be divorce buddies, helping each other get through this tough time. I thought about it and agreed. It seemed like a good idea. I moved my belongings out of David's place. That day, he wasn't supposed to be home, but he showed up unexpectedly. He didn't say a word the entire time. He stood there with a cold expression, watching me pack and leave. Zoe didn't understand. What's his deal? I chuckled. He wants to reconcile, but he won't lower his pride because I haven't pushed forward with the divorce. He thinks I'm just playing hard to get. In situations like this, you have to hold out. Whoever gives in first loses. He probably even feels a bit aggrieved. That's probably what's going on in his head. When David took me to see Sandra, she was already 30 weeks pregnant. With time passing, her due date was now less than 40 days away. David and I hadn't been in contact since, But his mother did call me once, out of respect for my elders, I answered. At first, she casually mentioned David's mistakes, but then the conversation shifted to persuading me to reconcile. That girl is actually quite pitiful because of her health issues. If she aborts this child, she might never be able to conceive again. As women, you should be able to understand, right? Honestly, I envied David. Even though his parents were divorced, his mother treated him like a precious jewel. No matter who was right or wrong, she would defend him without question. Unlike me, after my parents divorced, neither of them really wanted much to do with me. So, I replied calmly, I understand. Of course I do. That's why you should talk to David. As long as he divorces me, not only will you have a legitimate grandchild, but you'll also gain a new daughter-in-law. Why not make the best of it? David's mother fell silent. I think she actually took my words to heart. But unfortunately, she wasn't able to convince David. Even up until the day Sandra gave birth, he hadn't shown his face to me. Chapter 9. Sandra went into labor 2 days earlier than expected. She was admitted to the hospital in the morning, and by 7:20 p.m., she had delivered a healthy baby boy. Almost the entire Zhou family was there when I arrived. It was quite a heartwarming scene. David was holding the baby, half tender, half melancholic. Sandra lay on the hospital bed, smiling with joy. If not for my appearance, they would have made such a happy family of 3. The first to notice me was David's mother. She seemed a bit awkward. Grace, you're here. Come see the baby. He's going to call you mommy one day. I couldn't help but laugh. I'll pass on that. Thanks. David looked stunned. He took a couple of steps forward with the baby, then stepped back and put him down. You're here. Yeah, I need you to cooperate with something. Go ahead. I gestured to the uniformed staff behind me. We need to conduct a paternity test for you and the baby. Please cooperate. The expression on David's face turned cold, and his eyes grew heavy as he looked at me. Sandra suddenly became emotional. No, I refuse. The baby was just born. He's so little. How can you be so heartless? I tilted my head and looked at her with amusement. You do know they take a blood sample from a newborn's foot, right? Standard procedure. It's not like I'm ripping him apart. You can stop pretending to be this overflowing fountain of motherly love. Sandra turned her helpless gaze to David. David stepped in front of her. She doesn't want to. Oh, that's fine. She doesn't need to want it. She just needs to comply. And so do you. I'm following standard procedures. You should have received the court summons by now. David's face grew even colder. What exactly are you trying to do? Isn't it obvious? Gather evidence. Get a divorce. After a long standoff, David suddenly smiled. Fine. Do it. His reaction gave me a bad feeling. 2 weeks later, my feeling was confirmed. The paternity test results showed that David was not the biological father of Sandra's child. It was a terrible feeling. I had waited all this time, thinking I had the perfect move, only to find out I was the one who had been outplayed. Chapter 10. I rushed to David's company and threw the test results in his face. He didn't dodge or flinch, remaining calm, as if he had been waiting for me. What's the rush? I'll tell you everything you want to know. Grace, we need to talk. David explained the whole story to me. At last year's class reunion, Sandra, after getting drunk, confessed her longtime feelings for David. David said he felt sorry for her, so he added her contact information. Since then, Sandra frequently contacted him. Later, for her birthday, Sandra asked him to come and celebrate with her. David went. They drank a lot, especially Sandra, who was visibly drunk. David left for a while to buy some hangover medicine for Sandra. It was during that brief time that Sandra was taken away by someone. David found her in a hotel. She was disheveled, in complete disarray. She thought it was me. She was happy. I didn't deny it. Later, she got pregnant and wanted to keep the baby. I couldn't tell her the truth, so I just went along with it. Adopting her child is my way of making it up to her. Grace, if we have our own child, I won't be able to treat her child like my own. At least not right now. What could I say? One thing after another. All I could do was say, "Fine." David blocked my way. "Is there nothing else you want to say?" I thought for a moment. "Be on time for our divorce hearing in 2 days." David's face darkened. "I've told you the truth. What more do you want?" I opened my mouth, then closed it again, finally letting out a frustrated tisk. "How come I never noticed how twisted your logic was before?" "David, just because you didn't technically cheat, that doesn't mean anything. Whether you want to play the saint or atone for your sins, that's all on you. Leave me out of it." David's expression grew more disappointed as he looked at me. "I didn't think you'd say something like that." "Ha," I scoffed. "What exactly did you expect me to say? Cold-hearted? Indifferent? But when you dragged me into this mess without asking, did you ever think about what I wanted? I'm not allowed to know the cause, but I have to suffer the consequences? Being your wife. What bad luck for me. So, what you care about is just that I didn't tell you, right?" I shook my head coldly. "David, use your brain." Chapter 11. Our divorce case went to trial as scheduled. David didn't miss it, but his stance was clear: no divorce. Because he was so adamant, because I couldn't provide solid evidence that our relationship had broken down, the court ruled no divorce. As I walked out of the courthouse, David stopped me. He looked at me with resignation, like he was dealing with a spoiled, difficult child. "Grace, I admit I was wrong this time. I won't hide anything from you again. Let's forget this happened and start over, okay?" I felt just as helpless. "David, let me tell you again, I'm not someone you can control with a few words." As I spoke, I took out my phone and pulled up the photo, showing it to him. The calm on David's face crumbled instantly. "Who gave you that?" "Who else?" I smiled faintly. "This photo even has a timestamp. So, right after your class reunion, the very next day, you two couldn't wait to jump into bed." "Huh?" David avoided my gaze, his fists clenching at his sides. "I can explain. It was a misunderstanding. We were both drunk. And it only happened once. Twice. Again and again." "David, how many lies are you hiding?" "But it doesn't matter. Do you know why I haven't exposed your cheating evidence?" David remained silent. I continued, "Because even if I did, it wouldn't change a thing. I was already prepared for this outcome in the first trial." David tensed up, repeating the same line over and over: "I won't divorce you." "David, the saddest thing for me is that in my own field of expertise, I can't even make sure you leave with nothing." David growled. "Grace, I'm not going to divorce you." I paused but didn't turn back. "Really? No rush. We'll take it slow." Chapter 12. The day after the divorce trial with David, I applied for an overseas assignment through my law firm. A week later, I got a positive response. Zoe, while helping me pack, seemed a bit sentimental. "Wow, this is so sudden." I smiled. "Actually, the firm had offered me this a while ago, but I turned it down. At the time, I thought being separated would affect our relationship. But now, I see it's a great opportunity, double the salary, broader experience. Why not? You know what they say, every cloud has a silver lining." I didn't tell many people about my plans to go abroad. But somehow, David still found out. I saw him at the airport. In just a few days, the gloom surrounding him had intensified, and his whole demeanor was tense. He asked me, "Why are you going abroad? Didn't you want a divorce?" I told you, "There's no rush." "Do you have anything else to say? If not, step aside. I've got a flight to catch." David stepped closer to me. "Do you hate me that much? You'd go abroad just to avoid me?" I took a step back. "If that's how you want to see it, I can't help you." "Grace," David growled. "Do you always have to talk to me like this?" "David, you're wasting my time." I tried to walk around him, but he grabbed my arm. "You're not leaving." I turned and looked at him coldly. "Do you want me to call security, or should I call the police?" I shook off his grip and continued walking. Desperately, he shouted, "I was wrong, Grace. I was wrong. Don't go." I didn't stop. He grabbed me again, his voice pleading now. "Let's talk. Grace, please. Let's talk." I thought, since we've come this far, Maybe it's good to get things out in the open, even if it's just to vent. Talking might help. But where do we even begin? David spoke first. Did it really have to come to this? I looked at him. What else? Grace, I've liked you for 8 years. 8 years. Not 8 days. How can you be so heartless? David, your so-called 8 years only count for something if I choose to acknowledge them. If I don't, what does that have to do with me? Those were your 8 years. I didn't know about them. And I didn't benefit from them. Why should I bear the burden? David was stunned by my words. After a long pause, he finally spoke. Is that really how you feel? So, all these years, it's been just me and this one-sided affection? Grace, do you really think everything we've come to is solely because of me? Haven't you made any mistakes? If it weren't for you, why would I have abandoned that child? Because of me? David, don't tell me you cheated. And now you suspect I cheated too? David stared at me, his face dark. He said, the day you collapsed and were hospitalized. I went to the hospital. I didn't understand. And then? David paused, then let out a mocking laugh. Do I really have to spell it out for you? I lost patience and stood up to leave. Wait! He called after me. He said, I overheard your conversation with Zoe. Zoe? I remembered. That day, Zoe had called me, and I shared the good news with her. What did I say? I said, I'm pregnant. I'm so happy. I've always wanted a family of my own. I want to have a child with him, half like him, half like me. He even thought of a name for a boy once. But what if we have a daughter instead? Grace, I know you've never forgotten Oscar. Even when you were pregnant, carrying my child, your thoughts were still on him. How am I supposed to feel? My thoughts were on him? Where did you get that idea? His photo. While you were talking to Zoe, you kept rubbing his photo. I pulled out my ID holder, opened it, and revealed the old picture inside. Is this what you're talking about? David's gaze froze. He stood up abruptly, knocking over the chair behind him with a loud crash. How is that possible? He looked at me, half panicked, half helpless. Why? How? When? How is this possible? I stood up slowly, took out the photo, and placed it on the table. The first time you brought me to your house, I saw your student ID, and I took the photo. Actually, even earlier than that, when I agreed to be with you, I had already taken out Oscar's photo. And the name for the child? You mentioned it the night I accepted your proposal, but you forgot. Grace! David was trembling. He clutched my hand tightly, his voice breaking. What have I done? What have I done? Our child. I pushed him away. Do you need me to comfort you? He stared at me in a daze. I said calmly, my comfort is this: even without this misunderstanding, our ending would still be the same. Because you don't trust me. You can't see the present or the future, only the past. And for that, I thank you. Thank you for making me see reality in time and ending this mistake. David, goodbye. I left decisively, but I felt a deep sadness. I had truly loved someone, but he didn't trust me. I gave my all, tried my best to love, hoping to make up for the 8 years he missed. But he remained oblivious, resenting me. So, what have I been doing these past 5 years? A wave of helplessness and frustration washed over me. It was as if someone was choking me. I felt suffocated, confused, and lost. Grace. Oh, Grace, how pathetic you are. Chapter 13. I stayed abroad for a year. During that year, I chose to pursue further studies in addition to working. Work and study filled every minute of my time. I was busy, but I was also fulfilled. I didn't have time to dwell on things anymore, and by the time I did think about them again, I felt at peace. I stayed in touch with Zoe regularly. She said David kept showing up at her place, trying to find out where I was living. Zoe turned him down a few times, got fed up, and eventually called the police. That finally got him to back off. David couldn't find out where I was, but he always managed to get hold of my contact information. He called me countless times. Sometimes I wasn't paying attention and accidentally picked up. But the moment I heard his voice, I would hang up. He didn't actually adopt the child, but he's been supporting them financially, paying child support and helping Sandra open a store. I heard they're even planning a birthday party for the baby's first year. His mom wants it to be big, but David disagreed. Can you believe this? Still married, and he's stirring up all this drama. Aren't they embarrassed? How do you know all this? Justin told me. I was a bit surprised. You're still in touch with him? Mentioning this made Zoe a little agitated. I'm about at my wit's end with him. I'm about ready to get a few guys to beat him up. He's so annoying. Justin was probably trying to win Zoe back. Men are always like this. They move on so easily. As if a simple "I'm sorry" should be enough for forgiveness. And if you bring up old issues, it's suddenly your fault. What they don't realize is that some wounds never heal. When are you coming back? My flight's on Wednesday. Great. I'll pick you up. Chapter 14. The day I returned home. It was drizzling, and there was a slight chill in the air. Zoe, being thoughtful, brought me a coat. Justin was there too, facing Zoe's cold expression. He seemed like he wanted to say something but held back. Finally, he turned to me and said, "Old Joe was supposed to come too, but something came up. The kid got sick, and he had to go with them to the hospital, right?" Justin was stunned. "How did you?" "Sandra told me. She bet me that David wouldn't come to pick me up today." Justin tried to defend him. I cut him off again and gave him my new number. "It's fine. When he's done, tell him to contact me." This time, I stayed at Zoe's place again. Everything was still the same as before. That sudden warmth made me feel oddly comforted. Because of that, I didn't even need to adjust to the time difference. I slept incredibly well. David called me the next morning, around 10 o'clock. I got a call from him. "Are you awake?" I didn't want to disturb you, so I waited. His voice and tone were cautious. I pretended not to notice and said bluntly, "I'm just calling to remind you, our second divorce hearing is in a week. Make sure you show up." David was silent. I hung up the phone. A second later, the phone rang again. This time, his voice was urgent. "Grace, it's been a year. I've been looking for you for a year, trying to reach you for a year. But the first thing you say to me when you come back is about divorce. Why? Am I really that terrible? Can't you give me even the smallest chance? What do you want me to do? Even if I have to get on my knees and beg you, at least come out and see me first. Grace, you can't just deny me a chance to explain." "David, do you know why it's been a year?" He didn't. "You're right when you say I went abroad to avoid you. That's exactly what I did. A year. Do you know what that time means? From the first trial until now, we've been separated for a year. That's the strongest evidence we have that our relationship has irreparably broken down. At the second trial, whether you agree or not, we will get divorced. It's actually quite sad. I'm a professional, yet it's taken me a year and a half to divorce my unfaithful husband. The time isn't the issue. It's that this time wears you down. It torments your heart, grinds down your will, makes you anxious, makes you crumble, until in the end, you want to give up and say, "Forget it. Let's just get by." I've seen this happen to so many people over the years. Of course, there are quicker methods, provoking him into domestic violence, catching him in more infidelity, or driving him to commit a crime. But that's like walking a tightrope, even if he's the one who falls. Can you really come out of it completely unscathed? It's too hard. So I understand. If I want to handle this the easy way, I need to stay focused. A year is a year. I can afford to wait. I have to wait. Chapter 15. On the day the second trial verdict came down, David and I didn't even need to wait for the 1-month cooling-off period for divorce. Our marriage was officially over. The weight that had been pressing on my chest was finally gone. This sense of relief was refreshing. In contrast, David looked like someone had drained all the life out of him. His gaze toward me was complicated, as if there was hate, and maybe even resentment. He said, "Grace, you're ruthless. This whole year, I thought I could win you back. But you had already sentenced me to death. You've been scheming against me all along." I nodded in agreement. "Fine. Let's just say I've been scheming. I'm in a good mood today. I don't feel like arguing, whatever you say." I didn't expect David to have some sudden epiphany, burst into tears. or be overcome with regret. Very few people are like that. Most respond with bitterness and hostility. That's just reality. Once everything was settled, I went abroad again. 6 months later, I came back with a promotion and a raise. During the time I was abroad, David sent me an email with just say, "I'm sorry." I replied, "Since the damage is already done, there's no need for sorry." Chapter 16, Bonus. David never expected Grace would go through with the abortion. When he found out, a deep regret began to creep in, but he forced it down. He couldn't afford to regret. His child, his own flesh and blood, had been killed because of his pressure. If he admitted regret, he would lose his mind. Justin once asked him, "How did you have the guts to take Grace to see Sandra?" David didn't dare face it. He had kept his relationship with Sandra hidden. He didn't dare see Sandra often, didn't dare contact her, and even blocked her number before going home each time. Grace was someone who couldn't tolerate even a grain of sand in her eyes. If she found out, they'd be finished. But when David overheard that conversation, his rationality snapped. For years, Oscar had been his nightmare. He had always lived in Oscar's shadow. He constantly compared himself, wondering whether Grace loved him more or Oscar. So, he insisted Grace get the abortion and brought her to see Sandra, all in a bid to make Grace prove that she loved him. David had imagined the outcome. He expected Grace to lose control, to break down, scream, and go hysterical. David didn't like Sandra, but he enjoyed the worship and affection Sandra lavished on him. He thought, if Grace knew about Sandra, maybe she'd panic. Maybe she'd be afraid of losing him. People only realize what they have when it's gone. He figured it was time to give Grace a sense of crisis. Once Grace regretted it, he would reveal the truth and forgive her for never letting go of Oscar. That was the outcome David had hoped for. But instead, Grace didn't cry or scream. She had the abortion and then filed for divorce. In an instant, David's world crashed down, from heaven to hell, leaving him chilled to the bone. Justin asked him, "Why did you go through all this? What was the point?" David said, "To prove Grace loves me." "Did you ever think about where your confidence to do all this came from?" David was stunned. Where did his confidence come from? His confidence was that Grace loved him? In truth, David didn't dare think too deeply about many things. Every time he thought about it, he would wake up in a cold sweat. So, he started shifting the blame. Grace was at fault. Sandra was at fault. Even his mother was at fault. But David? He wasn't wrong. He had only made the best decision he could at the time. Even if given the chance to do it all over, he'd still make the same choices. Stubbornly, he continued to support Sandra and the child. It was as if only by doing so could he prove he was right. But Sandra wasn't satisfied. She wanted more money, or perhaps even marriage to David. David thought Sandra had gone mad. He didn't even like Sandra, so why would he marry her? The very thought made David's scalp tingle. So, Grace had agreed to be with him just because. He couldn't think about it. He didn't dare. David tried to suppress it all, until the taste of blood filled his mouth. David and Sandra's twisted relationship didn't last long before it fell apart. It all started when Sandra left the child with his mother and ran off with another man. It took David a lot of effort to track her down. He demanded to know why she did it. Sandra sneered. "Didn't you say you'd take care of the child? Well, here you go. He's all yours. I don't want him. That's your child. But if it weren't for you, I never would have had him." Sandra took a drag from her cigarette and looked at David with contempt. "You men are so strange. When you had a wife, you were sweet-talking me every day. Now that your wife's left, you're pretending to be all righteous. What? Is it more thrilling when it's an affair?" David felt humiliated. "What nonsense are you spouting? I only felt sorry for you." "Sorry for me? Sorry for what? You said you've liked me for 13 years. Sandra's expression became increasingly incredulous. "Are you insane? You lied to me? Do you even understand what sweet talk is? I say it, and you believe it? We didn't even see each other for all those years. What? Did I love you through telepathy? Oh, right. I heard you had a crush on Grace for 8 years. Is it that you've lied about it so much you've convinced yourself it's true?" David growled. I'm not like you. Sandra snorted. You might fool her, but you can't fool me. All that nonsense about loving her for 8 years. What were you doing during those 8 years? Dating other girls. Getting girlfriends. Not missing a beat. Then she's single. You get your shot. And suddenly it's all about those 8 years. As if you've given yourself some advantage. You keep saying it until you've even convinced yourself you're the victim. Sandra ruthlessly tore apart David's facade. Enraged, David slapped her. But Sandra wasn't easy to push around. And neither was the man she had run off with. David got badly beaten. As he sat on the ground, gasping for air, he took out his phone, running his fingers over Grace's name for a long time before finally sending her 3 words, "I'm sorry." He didn't expect Grace to respond, but she did. Since the damage is already done, there's no need for sorry. David laughed. And then he cried. In the end, David decided to raise the child Grace didn't want. But his mother wasn't having it. She had finally found out the child wasn't her biological grandson. But whether out of guilt or atonement, David remained stubborn. His mother ended up in the hospital. Furious, Justin's wealthy family bailed on him, leaving David with a pile of mess to clean up. At home, at the company, David found himself increasingly overwhelmed. The more he had to do, the less he seemed to earn. Sometimes, he wondered how his life had ended up like this. He knew Grace had returned to the country, had been promoted, was doing better than ever, but he never dared show his face in front of Grace. Eventually, they ran into each other. Once, in a hotel, Grace was chatting casually at a dinner table, all smiles, and there he was, bowing and scraping like a dog. David looked at himself in the mirror. He really did look like a dog.